Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and in this video we're going to be talking about the recently revealed new expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, Endwalker. Disclaimer time, this video is an ad by Square Enix who have sponsored this video. If you haven't already tried the game, there is a link in the description to start your free trial, which gives up to level 60, the first expansion and unlimited game time. That's full access to 14 jobs, each of which you can take to level 60 on one character, if you are so inclined. But disclaimer out of the way, and well, you probably knew most of what I was saying there anyway, didn't you? Let's talk about Endwalker, the hotly anticipated sequel to Shadowbringers. Now, whilst this video is sponsored by Square Enix, even if it weren't, it wouldn't change my opinion that Shadowbringers is one of, if not the best Final Fantasy story in the entire series, which is one reason why I accepted such a sponsorship. Shadowbringers encompassed just about everything I would personally want from a Final Fantasy game's plot, which is, well, in a nutshell, going on an adventure with your friends, visiting strange and fantastic locations, engaging in excellent boss fights, and so on. Your quest, of course, accompanied by a superb soundtrack. Shadowbringers delivered on every front there, in my eyes. So thoughts on Endwalker? Well, it goes without saying the rest of this video will contain spoilers for content up to and including all of Shadowbringers and Shadowbringers post-launch content. The first few seconds of the trailer made it plain we were getting a paladin warrior of light. The moon, for starters, and then Meteor being dressed up, all like Paladin Cecil. Those robes concealing him and giving him a rather Ascian-esque appearance, huh? Just as Cecil, or Cecil if you prefer, turned from Dark Knight to Paladin, so too is the Warrior of Light. Why is he on the moon? Well, the moon obviously has a connection with Zodiac, possibly being Zodiac's body. The other main character we've seen on the moon was of course Elidibus, the heart of Zodiac. Maybe we've hopped up there to take his place as the new heart, I don't know. Either way, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some connection between Elidibus being well and truly gone, and us going to the moon. Back down around Eorzea we see the world is on fire. 3 dragons are hovering around Dravania, which might just be to indicate, well, that's where the dragons live, though they seem prominent enough to make me wonder if it's indicating something else. You know, something to do with maybe Lunar Bahamut. The Imperial capital, meanwhile, looks like it has been all but destroyed. What is it with Imperial cities being destroyed before we get there? Meanwhile, the trailer then cuts to what appears to be Outer Lenosha, specifically near the city of Nim, which I believe is one of the first places we saw those strange Fandaniel towers, right? I speculated with a friend of mine that Fandaniel's using those towers to agitate something deep in the earth, the same thing that caused the ancients to grow so concerned. Perhaps too it is summoning or creating or driving creatures berserk, as the enemies Alizé and co are fighting don't typically appear in that area from what I can recall. I've not been to Outer Lenosha for a while though. Whilst not everything in the trailer needs to happen 1-to-1 ratio in the actual game, I wouldn't be surprised if something along the lines of this happens in Endwalker. We go to investigate a disturbance in that area, or maybe even before Endwalker officially launches. If you remember with Shadowbringers, the very start of that cinematic technically happens before the expansion came out. But yeah, if we go over there with the twins and end up fighting some powered up beasts, I wouldn't be surprised. Now of course, this clip is largely to highlight Alizé's new outfit, and Alphinaud's reveal of the new healer, Sage. From what we know so far, the healers are getting a slight retooling in Endwalker. Right now, we have the pure healer, White Mage, the barrier healer, Scholar, and Astrologian, who is a bit of a hybrid. The new plan is to have Astrologian and White Mage be the pure healers, while Sage and Scholar are the new barrier healers. I like this plan as I always felt the barrier side of Astrologian was lackluster, and I'd only really use it if there was another Astrologian who had regen. But for Sage, well, I mean, I like lasers and I like barrier heals, so if I had to pick a healer, it'd be that one. Other than that, Alizé appears to have a new weapon, but is sticking with Red Mage as her job. The Warrior of Light, meanwhile, uses maybe a new Paladin ability, or just something fancy for the trailer. He does a sort of holy glowing shield bash, which sends the thing reeling for Alphinaud's follow-up attack, which probably did like 1 damage because he's a healer. Again, it could just be something for the trailer, but they seem to like putting in hints and gameplay accurate abilities where possible. I raised Paladin and Dragoon simultaneously as my first jobs, so I'm glad to see one of my OG jobs getting a bit of spotlight at last. Now, if they would just change the animation for Atonement, I'd go back to playing Paladin. We know there's another job coming too, a melee DPS, to be revealed in May or some time. And if you're watching this video after it's been revealed, well, feel free to laugh at the silly guesses we made. But most bets right now appear to be something along the lines of Reaper or Hell Knight, a scythe-using job, effectively. And more on that in a moment, because during the next segment of the trailer we get Fandaniel seemingly deep underground, perhaps in the alpha of his towers in Garlemald. Then he takes an elevator up high, where Xenos is surveying the ruins of the Imperial City, we assume? On his throne chair thing, if you look carefully, there's something next to him which could be part of his new weapon, possibly a scythe, or it's just part of his chair. I imagine this teaser trailer is missing a minute or two of footage from the final version, so it's possible we'll see whatever his new weapon is, along with a new job in the complete version. But a scythe-wielding job could be interesting, huh? Seems a fairly suitable weapon for someone like Xenos. Likewise, if it's a medium armor style, it could likewise share maiming sets with the Dragoon. As for how it would work, I mean, there are endless possibilities there. It could be a damage over time based melee DPS. It could be a sort of buff your weapon with different magic rune blade style thing. Who knows? And unrelated, but as I'm sure you noticed, as Fandaniel enters the elevator, there's a strange design on the wall, and the whole structure looks almost organic in a way. But yeah, the design on the wall looks like some tentacly monster thing, huh? Going beyond the trailer, what do we know of Endwalker's features? Well, we're getting 2 new jobs, Sage and something else. We're going to Thavnair and its capital, which I can't pronounce, Radzathan, something like that, which, you know, we've known about for a good while. They even have a consulate or something in Kugane. We'll also be going to the Imperial capital, and the moon. Level cap goes up to 90, we're getting a somewhat number crunch in the process, which means that, you know, right now, tanks have like 180,000 health, and, you know, you can hit people for 100,000 damage. After the crunch, it means the numbers will be less, but they will stay relative. So let's say your 100,000 Midari Setsugeka does 10% of an enemy's health right now. It will still do 10% of their health, just the numbers themselves will be smaller. I do wonder if they're going about the number crunch in the best way, as it seems like they're doing a number crunch from 51 to 80, as opposed to 1 to 80, which is personally how I would have done it, because this could have unforeseen consequences on things like unsynced, underleveled content. You know, like if you try and do a level 50 trial at level 80, you can like one-shot the enemies. That might change a bit, but I think they said they're aware of that, so hopefully it will stay roughly the same. We're getting a fight against Final Fantasy X's Anima, my favourite Aeon, because how can you not love that punching overdrive where each hit does like 999999999999999 damage? And I assume that will be a trial or otherwise an 8-man fight. The new 8-man raid seems to be called Pandemonium and is centered around La Habrea. I assume to give him a more fitting send-off on the same level with Emmet and Elidibus. There will be updates to the trust system, including letting us use Stinian, the best character in the game, naturally. Outside of combat, we're getting a new island sanctuary system that gave me some kind of Animal Crossing vibes, maybe? Looks like something relaxing for people who enjoy minions in particular. Ishgard's housing district will finally be opened up too. Maybe I can get a medium house there. Probably not. There will be a new small-scale PvP system, and of course more alliance raids. Final Fantasy XIV has a lot of non-combat content, mini-games and so on, which can keep you going for a long time, and as I caught up with more and more content in the game, I found myself engaging in more of the non-combat content, whether it's housing, I have a little small house in the mist, glamours, the true endgame, minions, which personally I'm not too interested in. You know, I have the Palico, I don't really need any others. The Gold Saucer minigames, Blue Mage and whatnot. I guess Blue Mage is technically combat content, but it's removed from the main end game, I suppose. I think a lot of people appreciate these more social or relaxed elements because an MMO doesn't need to be fighting and raids all the time. Raiding is not necessarily the be-all and end-all of your MMO experience, although it has typically been portrayed as such for many years. I'm not much of a gatherer or a crafter, but they are adding more and more to it with every patch, it seems like. The one very interesting thing we're getting now is data center travel. Right now, the game is split into data centers, like Japan, America, and Europe, basically. So if you're playing on like the European data center, you can go from one European server to another, but until now you couldn't go to, say, the Japanese data center or the American one. Now that will be possible in some fashion, so it's been in the works for a while, and it's going to offer up a lot of interesting possibilities. For the economy, and if you're able to join raids and stuff, there's lots and lots of possibilities with this being opened up. But what would I like to see going forward? Well, one downside to Shadowbringers, the only downside I can think of really, no Hildebrand. And I know Hildebrand is a love it or hate it kind of thing. Personally, I love it. I have a very juvenile sense of humor and I find it hilarious. So give us more Hildebrand. Maybe we find him on the moon, why not? I'd also love to see the glamour system expanded further. At the very least, we need more plates. You can't add 2 new jobs when we still only have like 15 plates. We need at least 1 plate for every job, ideally, and maybe even a few more for, crafters and gatherers. It would be nice if every item we picked up was just permanently added to a glamour library, so to speak. You know how it works in things like Neo. This would save us being limited by the 400 or so items we can store in the glamour dresser. Being able to use channel dyes, as in to dye more precisely individual parts of armor instead of just one dye applying to the whole thing, that would be a really nice bonus too, but not necessary. Just be the icing on the cake, but definitely more glamour plates. Beyond that, I'd like to see a rendering update to the game's engine. What with the PS5 and all that coming out, and the game itself has been out for, 7, 8 years? More if we include 1.0 and all that. We need better anti-aliasing, because that would really, really help the game's visuals. The game holds up very well visually, I think. The lighting is great. And, just in general, the way the game is rendered, like shaders and everything, if textures are low resolution, they're usually not very noticeable, with a few exceptions of times like Hien's armor, which looks very blurry. But, now with the PS5, what better time to give us some rendering updates to the engine? Just some higher resolution options, better anti-aliasing, and that's all I think it really needs, honestly. Most of all, though, I'm just looking forward to seeing if they manage to top Shadowbringers' story and music. I already prefer the Endwalker theme to the Shadowbringers theme. It's funny, the trailer for Shadowbringers is what got me to resubscribe, I beat Stormblood, then I took a break from the game, waiting for more content. As soon as I saw the Shadowbringers trailer, I was like, that's the best trailer from MMO I've seen. So I just had to resubscribe. And the music, it grew on me, but I didn't immediately love it. The Endwalker music, I really like. The game's composer is really hitting his stride. And, I thought that in Heavensward, and Stormblood, and Shadowbringers, but he just keeps getting better and better. It's crazy, frankly. But I think that about does it, though. Thank you so much for watching, and once again, this video is sponsored by Square Enix. Full disclaimer, full disclosure, and all that. Remember, if you haven't given the game a shot yet, you can check out the link in the description where you can start your free trial, which has no time limitations. You're getting basically 100, 200 hour RPG for free. I tell you how many hours I played in 14, but you judge me, so I won't. Needless to say, it's a really generous free trial. There are, of course, some limitations, but those are mostly more about the social elements, and you can still talk with your friends and play with them, so really it's nothing drastic. In general, it's a game that, since A Realm Reborn launched, has consistently delivered and exceeded my expectations over the years. And it's something I do have some genuine passion for, as I enjoy the game a lot. And I play it every day, more or less, even if it's only for 20 minutes because I'm so busy doing other stuff, but I always find time to hop on a little bit. But until next time, you take care. Ciao.